Hi, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. I am here to talk about three arguments about language, dialect, and varieties. The first argument is from Mr. Hanke, which is the first problem that he will tackle. So, according to Mr. Hannigan, the first problem is German versus Dutch. So Dutch speaker can't understand German, but when Dutch native speaker can understand German speaker very well. And Chinese speaker, the only variations of Chinese speaker are that their language has different accents or phonology. But it comes to writing, they reunite. So which means they understand each other. In Jamaican Creole problem, Jamaicans are sort of English, the language that you can only comprehend if they speak it, but when it comes to the writing, it's different or incomprehensible. Based on Professor Hanke, to be able to recognize language, it has a language criteria. So the first criteria is standardization, second one is vitality, third autonomy, and fourth reduction, lastly norms. So what is the meaning of standardization? Standardization, it has a development of a grammar and spelling, and for the vitality means it refers to the existence of a living community speakers, separating languages that are alive from languages that are not. And for the autonomy means it is that you are unfamiliar with or speak a language that is different from another language. Reduction means it is that reduced written standards minimize function in society and help recognize variation from the standard language. It is considers others' language to equally subordinate and uses reduced variety to some level. Norms. The meaning of norms simplify that they are proper or a good speaker of a language. Dialect. According to Mr. Hanke, dialect has three types. So the first one is regional dialect, the second one is social dialect, and the third one is phonological dialect. So what is regional dialect? It means that people in other parts of country can understand what dialect you use. And social dialect means that when two people speak to one another, their dialect influenced by social factors. Phonological dialect, the only variation between phonological dialect is that the accent and the manner in which a dialect is spoken. So let's proceed to Mr. Kumar's argument about language, dialect, and varieties. So, based on Mr. Kumar, language is the innate human capacity. It is a fully structured system. Language defines human. It is used in society. The rules of language use are systematic as well. It is both an individual as well as social entity. So, Mr. Kumar means about language is the innate human capacity means that it is naturally developed, and it is fully structured means that it has structures such as sounds, words, sentence, and discourse. The meaning of it is used in society, he means that we look at this relationship between sounds, words, and sentences in the context of comprehending link between language and society. And the meaning of the rules of language use are systematic as well, means that utilize language and its components are unrelated when the entire system becomes external to the individual. It defines humans and utilizing society in the norms of language usage also extremely systematic. In the same way that we say language is organized, and the meaning of it is both an individual as well as social entity. Language exists on both individual and social entity. So let's proceed to grammatical versus acceptability. According to Mr. Kumar, grammatical is although a phrase is possible outside of its social context, it is nevertheless inappropriate. The meaning of acceptability, is governed by social rules. And for society means that for a language studies society can be defined as a group of at least two people with no higher limit. Identity. It means that it is a linguistic construction of belonging to one or more social groups or categories. So it means that it is referring to someone's identity. And for speech community means that it is an individual exhibit similar linguistics behaviors speak the same. For example, Cebu and Bohol has the same language, which is Visayan. So dialect, according to Mr. Kumar, it is socially loaded them superficially of the distinction. A language is a dialect. So, dialect is all natural languages spoken by individual are learned in the same way. So let's proceed to Castro's argument, the reality of non-native and versus native speaker. In my opinion and understanding, some countries or people born in another language do not comprehend each other as well as the countries of languages. It suggests they have the same problem of not understanding one other's language. So, for example, a Korean native speaker converses with an American native speaker. Because of their language, the Korean speaker who is not learning English creates as a barrier to understanding with each other, just as the English native speaker cannot understand the Korean native speaker. And if you're studying another language, you're considered as a non native speaker by their country and language. The long established requirement of early childhood exposure, variously referred to as mother tongue, first language, and home language, qualify you as a native speaker. EFL versus ESL, the prevailing view. English foreign language, in short, EFL, means that are those countries where English is regarded as a foreign language. In short run, these countries do not know how to speak English. Secondary English learner, in short ESL, means that the countries consider English to be their second language, which means that English is already taught in their nation. Speech community and speech fellowship. According to Castro, speech community is refers to a broad association of varieties that are acknowledged to differ from one another in particulars but are subsumable as subvarieties under a broad label. So for example, American, British, Australian, and New Zealand English differ and codified as a distinct varieties, but all of these speech fellowships are members of the same English speaking speech community. Speech fellowship means that fellowship are members of the same organization at a little lower level. There is an English speaking speech community is a committee of American English speakers. Speech fellowships are available in the American English speech community. For example, from the Northeast, which is Maine, the Southwest in the Midwest, which is New Mexico, the Northwest, which is Oregon, or the Southeast, which is South Carolina. So this is the three circles, which is the inner circle, the outer circle, the expanding circle. So the three circle, which is popularized by Castro, means that it is an interpretation that is based on more than just historical evidence of English spread, but also on social linguistical viable. It is a interpretation of the status and functions of the English in its many contexts, in the circle of overlap, in some ways with previous notions of native speaker, non native speaker, and English foreign language, and English secondary language, but they better satisfy explanatory needs in research and education. It means that the three circles represent an understanding of the status and function of the Englishes. including their identity, conferring capacities, which are dynamic and not assumed to be static, by any agency or group, native or not. Inner circle. Inner circle means that it is refers to English as it first emerged and later evolved, and its diaspora was spread throughout the world. English speakers from England transplanted the language to Australia, New Zealand, and North America, as well as the extended British Isle or UK. English was the official language in the countries of this, apparently named Inner Circle with the exception of Canada. English is the primary language of education, government, and society at large. It is stability in this position is so strong that this US Constitution, for example, makes no mention of its a official language to the exclusion for any other. So what is outer circle? Outer circle is Englishes was created with the second exodus of Englishes. So English, which was disseminated through colonization in Asia and Africa. This was accomplished by sending a relatively small number of users to parts of the world far removed from society, where English was the primary language of communication. Nonetheless, due to imposed economic, political, and military realities, English became a second language for many indigenous people of nations such as India and Nigeria. And also outer circle countries and regions such as Caribbean, India, Nigeria, Pakistan, and also the Philippines and Singapore are now frequently labeled as a English using. And it is surprising to a visitor when a resident cannot speak at least some English rather than the other way around. So, what is expanding circle? It is represents the further spread of English as a result of Britain's and the United States political and economical influence in East Asia, the Middle Asia, and Latin America, in addition to Europe and the world's island nation. So, English has limited responsibilities in public life and expanding circles nations, primarily in higher education, in science and technology, and extremely limited activities in the personal sector. This may be changing as more nations in Europe and Asia adopt the policy of introducing English at the early stages of schooling in order to compete in the global technology and service-oriented market. For details in the European situation, see the following section for development Southeast Asia. So the concept of circles, according to Castro, does not grant despite criticism. The inner circle retains its central status and does not relegate the outer and expanding circles to periphery. The labels simply indicate the historical context of the varieties, their original habitat and subsequent spread, as well as population movement, versus other factors that influence their further development.